the stand. Now he runs. He produces a magic print. He pulls out another one. This is incredible. This is ridiculous. This is 15 out of 10 on the incredible meter. What a player. What an entertainer. Give him the medal. Give him the Dally M medal.
Hello, footy fans, and welcome back to the Chip and Chase podcast on this lovely Monday morning, ready to rip and tear into everything that happened in round 3 of the NRL Telstra Premiership season. Another weird old round. I mean, I did a little bit better in the tipping department this week, so that was a plus. But, you know, there's always those games that you think are going to go one way and they completely go the opposite way. And then there's games where maybe you think the result ends up the way you thought it was, but how it ended up getting to that result is just, it's a clusterfuck. Like, there's so many different things going on in footy at the moment, and that makes it so entertaining. I really enjoyed round 3. A couple stinkers, which of course we will cover in this podcast, but for the most part, how good is rugby league? So let's, waste no further time and get right into it. Round 3 was kicked off with the grand final rematch of 2024. The Storm took on the Penrith Panthers on Thursday. Everyone was keen for this. I was so excited for this game. Now, the Panthers, they had a few out, it would have been much preferred if they had a full squad for this one so we could see the two best sides in the NRL going up against each other. But the Panthers, they came into the game without Dylan Edwards. I believe they were missing a centre. No, they had their centres. Thought there was someone else that were missing, but there is a certain someone that they ended up missing in this game. Nathan Cleary, of course, the big talking point out of this game, had that early HIA, which he failed, and then the Panthers had to go on and do the rest of the game without him, which, as a fan, that really sucks because I just want to see, don't get me wrong, the game was very enjoyable regardless of that, but you really just want to know, you want to see what the teams are like when you've got the best players available. And I think fans of both these sides do as well. And, because the media are going to sit here and go, oh, now the Panthers, it was a 30-24 scoreline to the Storm. The Panthers only lost by 1 try. If Nathan Cleary's in the side, what would have happened? And now there's just all that speculation, and it takes a bit of feel away from the Melbourne Storm in this one, who were really good. And they got this win, and then all the media is going to say is, yeah, but Nathan Cleary got concussed. So, would you have won it without him? It doesn't matter if he was concussed or not, if the Storm win or not, we never know. There's just that debate now, and it takes a bit of shine off the performance of the Storm, which is unfortunate, but again, I don't think that necessarily troubles Craig Bellamy and troubles the Melbourne Storm. I'm sure they would have preferred to verse Nathan Cleary and to verse a full-strength Panthers side to get their revenge and to really have that in their hearts, but for them, I think they're not really worried about media. They're just worried about, hey, we're getting the wins. We will see every team in September if they want to be there. And as I said, they did get this win. Now, they were a team that I tipped, the Melbourne Storm. And, yeah, it was an enjoyable game. Like, the fact that Nathan Cleary was ruled out, the fact that Dylan Edwards wasn't in the game didn't stop this game from going right down to the wire again. Brian To'o scored in the 75th minute. So that kept the game within 6 points. And it was just close all throughout. In fact, I believe it was actually the same amount of tries scored for each side in this one. The problem was Paul Alamotti, the backup goal kicker, only kicked 2 from 5. So if he hits all those goals, we're sitting at a 30-all scoreline. So it was a enjoyable game to watch. I think the Panthers, they take maybe a bit more out of this than the Storm do. I thought it was a very spirited effort to keep it so close in this game. And as I said, score just as many tries as the Melbourne Storm, as essentially a full-strength Melbourne Storm outfit. To miss the players that they were and, miss Cleary quite early into the game, I never really gave them a hope of staying this close. And they very much did. And I think a lot of that goes to Jack Cole. I thought he was, we've given him a few raps the last couple of weeks where he hasn't been the best in his performances, but he's had that determination. He's put his hand up for absolutely everything. And in this game, he ended up shifting to halfback once that all played out. Blaze Talangi made his Panthers debut and came into the side at 5'8". Big shout out to Isaiah Yeo as well, who essentially started acting like a halfback minus the kicking aspect, which he always sort of does. He's almost like a third half on the field, Isaiah Yeo. But in this one, he upped his touches. He was just distributing. And as I said, I thought they looked good. And I think maybe there's still that argument of now it's an unpredictable Panthers team. The Storm, they can go out and be like, okay, this is what we prepare for when it's Nathan Cleary, when it's this Panthers side that we lost to last year. But when injuries like this happen and everybody just gets shuffled around, can you prepare for that? Do you know what style of footy that they're going to play? Because I'm not sure the Panthers knew what style of footy they were going to play at that point. And that's a dangerous footy side. So for them to put on 24 points on the Storm, I think it was a great effort, very spirited performance by the Panthers, and I think they take a lot away from this. Obviously, now they have started this season 1 from 3 on the wins, and they see themselves sitting outside the bottom, outside the top 4, top 8, I should say. So, scoreboard, ladder-wise, not a fantastic start from the Panthers. I think, obviously, that Roosters game is still their biggest blight to their early season, but this game, coming against who I have as the heavy favourites of the competition, I think they did all right. For the Storm, again, as I said, it took a bit of shine off the fact that they did this against a Panthers team decimated by a few injuries. But again, you can only play what's in front of you, and they went out and they got the win. They still put 30 points on this Panthers side, and that's one thing you should know and expect from an Ivan Cleary coach team, is that they're not going to leak in defence. And I know now that's 2 weeks in a row that they have. Obviously, the Panthers leaked, I think it was 38 points to the Roosters, which is absurd. But again, you can only play what's in front of you. To put 30 points on the Panthers is a good effort. The big thing I'm liking about this Storm side, there's a lot of things I'm liking, but it's their spine. They're all clicking into gear. Maybe Harry Grant was I thought he was pretty poor in this one, Harry Grant, but the rest of their spine was all just playing and playing and playing. Ryan Pappenhausen, he's just back to his brilliant best. He also took over the goal kicking in this one after Nick Meaney came off with I think it's a broken jaw that has been reported now for Nick Meaney, so he's expected to miss a few weeks. That's the thing about the Storm. There's all the talk about Cleary and whatnot out for the Panthers. The Storm lost Hughes late in this game. They lost Meaney, I think maybe halfway through the game, something like that, maybe even before the halfway mark. So they had their outs as well, and there were still reshuffles for them. So I'm not going to give them, too much shit. I thought it was still a really good performance. Any team, no matter who the Panthers are fielding or not, any team that beats the Panthers is a good game. They probably leaked a few more points, a few more tries than they really want to, but in the end, they got the job done. It's not really changing my views on where I see this team. I still think they're going to go all the way to the grand final, and at the moment, they're still my tip to take out the premiership in the very early season. So not too much to really left to say about the Storm. They went out there and got the job done against the 4-time premiers. In terms of standouts for their team, as I said, Ryan Pappenhausen, thought he was really good. He's just looking so good out there. Had a few defensive lapses. I don't know if you can fully call them lapses. I think it was more so just positioning-wise, where he was, maybe making a tackle on the other side and then left out on the other when he has to run to the other side. But I thought he was really good. He scored their final try, I believe it was, to get them, essentially too far ahead to really be brought back. Cameron Munster, though, was the big one for me. He just looks like he could be in for his best season yet. He looks so fit. I think he assisted 3 tries off kicks. It was the Pappenhausen try off the grubber. I can't remember the other ones. I had them all in my notes and then I lost my notes. Eli Katoa, I can't remember. Regardless, he had 3 try assists. I'm pretty sure all 3 of them were off kicks. He has the ball on a string. When he's not kicking the ball and he has that deft touch off the boot, he's bouncing around, he's looking dangerous, he's making space. I love what I'm seeing from Cameron Munster, and him in the best headspace. He's still a top 10 at worst. For me, he's probably still top 5 player in the competition. So for him to be back to his brilliant best, it's just another string to the Melbourne Storm bow. So I thought he was excellent. Any other standouts for the Storm? Jack Howarth, I like what he's doing so far to start this season, getting through a ton of work at centre, which is something that they've needed. Their wingers aren't necessarily meter eaters. Will Warbrick makes a few, but he was out in this game, and Grant Anderson took over. I like Grant Anderson. He's a good little player. Also went down with an injury in this one, so there's another player that I missed when talking about those injuries. But yeah, I think Jack Howarth, what he does bring the ball out of his own end is another Just a really good thing that the Melbourne Storm need in their side. The one thing I've found quite interesting is they're still limiting Stefano Utoikamanu minutes, which is weird. Now, I don't know if I'm missing something when I'm watching these games. I try and watch close, but it's hard to watch every single individual player. Maybe there's defensive lapses or errors or something that I'm missing with Stefano. But to me, he looks damaging every time he's on the field, yet he's only playing 40 minutes. I thought the point of bringing him across as your big middle recruit would be to get him in those bigger minute roles, but I don't know, maybe they're just easing his way into the season. I think as it goes on, he will look really, really good. Josh King, he did what he's always known best for, just the dirty work, and just 57 minutes of that is in the middle against the Panthers pack is just incredible. And Eli Katoa I thought was really, really good as well. For the Panthers, we probably didn't touch too much on their standouts. Paul Alamotti, I thought, was good. Obviously, minus the goal kicking, but I'm not going to hold that against him. They were tough shots to convert. He's also their backup goal kicker. He's not their main goal kicker. And he got through 170 metres and scored 2 tries in this one as well. There's only so much he could have done. Brian To'o, I thought, was really good as well, which he probably needed to be because last week I thought he was very poor against the Roosters. So good to see him bounce back with a try-double of his own, 17 runs, 192 metres. And, of course, the man that we sort of briefly mentioned, Jack Cole, just want to give more shout-out to him. I thought he was really good to step up into that halfback role. It's not an easy thing to do, especially when your halfback is Nathan Cleary. He played over 70 minutes of this contest in that halfback jersey, ran the ball 20 times, only 104 metres, but it's the fact that he is running, he's digging into the line, he was dishing out the back. I really liked what I saw from him. 24 tackles in this one, 4 missed still, but he's obviously going to be a target. He's still so young. For me, if I'm seeing him making 24 tackles, I'm pretty darn happy with that. And of course, lastly, we mentioned Isaiah Yeo. I'll just read out his numbers as well here because it was a bit of a monster shift from Isaiah Yeo. 22 runs, 136 metres from him. So again, they did a really good effort to contain him, the Melbourne Storm, but he just kept turning up, kept dishing out the back, and he put up 42 tackles as well on the back of that. So massive shout out to Isaiah Yeo. But yeah, we'll move on from that game. As I said, really good win from the Storm. It was a really entertaining game as well. Like, the commentators did their absolute best to hype this up, as they should have. Would I have preferred a full-strength sides? Absolutely. But am I disappointed with what we got? Not necessarily. So, really good win from the Storm. Let's move into the second game of round 3. That, of course, was the New Zealand Warriors defeating the Sydney Roosters 14-6. Now, obviously, happy with this result as a Warriors fan, but just as a general footy fan, this was a bit of a poo slinger of a game. Look, there was a few errors. There was just not the most polished attack out there. There just wasn't a whole lot to really get excited about. It was just watching teams go back and forth, which, I'm all here for a grind, but it wasn't necessarily like making breaks and scrambling. It was just, up and down, up and down. I was at work while we had this one on. Thankfully, got to throw that on the TV while I was doing my work. Honestly, even as a Warriors fan, I probably would have preferred to just be downstairs doing all the hard stuff at work instead of being upstairs watching this one. It just wasn't the greatest game. But as I said, the Warriors, they won, so it makes me, it didn't fully ruin my week. And the positives to take away from this game from the Warriors are, they showed a lot of defensive resolve. As I said, the Roosters didn't throw a huge amount in them attack, and they probably blew a few opportunities that I don't think they should have. But the Warriors, they got the job done while only leaking 6 points. They only leaked 1 try. It was a pretty simple try. Just Nafahu White, just close to the line, just went bang, bang, and scored that one. So that was a bit disappointing in that 1 try, but again, it was the only try that they conceded, and they kept showing up right to the end. Even when I thought their attack was quite rough, they just kept, coming up with plays. Ali Leitao scored a double in this one. Obviously, someone we've been very vocal about through parts of last season. And if I had a podcast before that, I probably would have been vocal about him then. But we went on record at the beginning of this season over on the Ruck Infringement podcast talking about Ali Leitao. He's just a weapon, and we got to see a lot of that this game. He's a bit more like trimmed down a bit more tone than, say, your Conrad Harrells and your Solomon Akatas of the world, but he's still built like a brick shit house. He can break those tackles, very similar to those sort of players, and I think he's just going to be so hard for teams to handle. He's still only 21, I want to say. He's got a lot of growing left in him. I can't wait to see where he goes as a player. To score those 2 tries, very similar tries, the Warriors sort of stripped the Roosters for numbers, or it might have even just been, one-on-one tackles. But the thing with Ali Leitao is you can't really handle him on a one-on-one tackle. If you've got him one-on-one, you've essentially already got that overlap. You've got that try, lock it in. And he did that twice. It was just sweeping out to the right off not the most, admirable sort of plays, but it worked for the Warriors. And the other try scorer for the Warriors was Chanel Harris-Tavita, which it was just an individual effort from him. It was, just, as I said, just back and forth for a lot of this game. We had a try in the 21st minute and then the 25th minute, and then we had nothing until the 65th with Chanel Harris-Tavita. And that was just him putting a kick on the left-hand side, like a little, not a bomb because it wasn't too high, but it wasn't necessarily a chip kick. Somewhere in that middle point, he chased it himself, caught the ball and went over for a try. So I love that sort of effort from Chanel Harris-Tavita. But yeah, it's a bit of a hard one to get a read. I wanted them to get a win. It was over in Auckland. They didn't have to travel for 2 weeks. They had time to prepare, and they got the win. And as I said, the defense, really good. Even if a team's not necessarily throwing a whole heap at you in attack, you can only play what's in front of you, and they held the Roosters to only 6 points. For the Roosters, pretty disappointing game from them. I know expectations aren't necessarily very high for the Roosters this year, but after their win against the Penrith Panthers, you'd expect they would have been up for this one. They might have brought a bit of belief back to their side. Didn't really look like it. They didn't have too much going on. And again, we have to still comment on how many attacking weapons they have in this side. Tedesco, Tupou, Nwanga Nitawase. Toya's very young, but he looks like an attacking weapon. Dom Young, Connor Watson, who did get injured around that halfway mark as well, so I'll give him a bit of slack. Angus Crichton, the list goes on. They still have a lot of attacking weapons in this side, and I don't necessarily think that they're using their attacking weapons very well. So yeah, it's just a very interesting one. There's still players trying their hearts out. James Tedesco, 22 runs for 204 metres. Daniel Tupou, 24 runs for 266 metres. Like, these guys are doing their work. 151 from Young. All of their back five, ran for over 100 metres. I don't know what it is with the Roosters. In fairness, as I said, they did bomb some attacking opportunities. There was a couple times on that left-hand side that Nwanga Nitawase just couldn't quite do the right pass to Daniel Tupou, and there was a drop ball or whatnot. So they could have come a lot closer, but in the end they didn't. It's just going to be an interesting old season for the Roosters. So tough loss in this one. Of course, it doesn't help that you're riding the high of last week. Maybe that's giving you a bit of fatigue. Maybe you can't get up 2 weeks in a row, especially when you have to go back to New Zealand. So I don't know what to take away from the Roosters in this game. Pretty disappointing outing from a Warriors team that wasn't all that great as well. To score 6 points is just not good enough, but it could have been a lot worse, In terms of standouts, Nafahu White was probably their best player. He pumped through 57 minutes at prop forward, scoring that try, running the ball 13 times for 134 metres, 5 tackle breaks. I thought Spencer Leniu brought a lot of punch as well at prop. Got through bigger minutes as well, 53 minutes from him, and he had 9 tackle breaks, 117 metres. 6 tackle breaks, not 9. He had 9 hit-ups. And as I said, those back 5 players all had their moments, but yeah, it's just a interesting old game and an interesting old season for the Roosters. In terms of the standout players for the Warriors, since we forgot to talk about them, we obviously, mentioned Ali Leitao, and I've been singing his praises for a long, long time. I thought Wade Egan was terrific. He was just constantly scheming, and every run that he took was at the exact right time of the contest to do so. He just had the Roosters on the back foot. Whenever there was a quick play of the ball, he knew exactly when to go at it. I thought he was fantastic. Got through the full 80 minutes, ran the ball 11 times for 110 metres from hooker. He's just such a good player. I think if he was over here in Australia at especially maybe New South Wales clubs, he'd be getting a lot more recognition for the work that he does because he is an absolute weapon. I'm sure he got through 40 odd tackles as well, 48 tackles and 110 meters from hooker. He's just such a good player, Wade Egan. So want to give him some love. I haven't done my team of the week yet. I'll probably have to do that after I get this one done, this podcast. Every chance he makes his way in there, I thought he was excellent. I thought the front rowers were good in this one. Again, only 48 and 49 minutes from Barnett and Fisher-Harris. They made those minutes count, which is the big thing, but I'm just a little bit worried why we're playing them so low. Maybe Webster thought we didn't need to against this Roosters pack. But the thing is, this Roosters pack is still really good. We already mentioned Nafahu White and Spencer Leniu playing good. Their second rowers are great. Their lock's great. I don't know if we were underestimating the Roosters, but I need more minutes out of these front rowers, especially since they're the captains. But as I said, they played good in those minutes. 14 runs, 126 metres from Fisher-Harris, and 15 runs, 156 metres from Mitch Barnett. But beyond that, not too much except for the man that I want to give the biggest shout out, Chance Nickel-Klugstad. One of the more superhuman efforts that we've seen in the last few years, maybe in a while, to be honest. 30 runs, 316 meters. It blows me away that we still hear every single time there's a loss, and sometimes even when there's not a loss, oh, put RTS to fullback. What are you getting from RTS that you're not getting from Chance Nickel-Klugstad at fullback? RTS has got one of the best running games we've ever seen. He was sort of that's not the word. He was almost revolutionizing fullback where he was doing those 200, 250 meter games every single week. But he doesn't have the passing game that Chance has. That's the thing. We've just mentioned these 316 meters from Chance. We forget to mention that he had the 2 line break assists and 2 try assists to Ali Leitao. Both of them came off Chance's hand, and yeah, they're probably more individual efforts from Leitao doing what he does best and breaking through tackles, but they're still coming from the plays of Chance, and I don't know if we'd get that from Roger. The fact that we still got 7 tackle breaks and 300 meters from Chance is just absurd. So I'm just so over being in Warriors fan groups or looking at comment sections on Warriors performances and saying, move Roger to fullback. Roger is not our fullback. He's the 3rd choice at best fullback at this club now. We have Chance ahead of him, and we have Tane Tuapiki who will go there. What we get from Roger on the wing is great. I thought defensively he was a lot better in this game before he went off with his injury. Hamstring injury, looking to miss, I think, 2 to 4 weeks now. Probably the back end of that as well. I think probably more around that 3-4 weeks because of his history with hamstring injuries. But what we get from Roger on the wing, we get that same meter eatage that we are used to from him, and we can let Chance do the silky stuff at fullback while getting through the work that he does as well. So massive, massive game from Chance Nickel-Klugstad. In terms of other standouts, that's sort of about it. I thought Halasima was fantastic off the bench. I thought he almost changed the game when he came onto the field. I thought Jackson Ford was good and Dylan Walker were good. Aaron Clark was really good as well. But yeah, Halasima, you could just feel the momentum change when he came on the field. Obviously, we've been very vocal about him as well, so we won't go into too much more depth about him. But yeah, loved what he did as well. Let's move on to the next game. The Brisbane Broncos defeating the North Queensland Cowboys 26-16. Now, another one that we tipped correctly. So we're starting off 3 for 3 in the tipping. Woohoo. But we did also have in most of our bets and whatnot the Cowboys to cover the line in this one, which they very much did, only losing this game by 10 points. It's an interesting one. Let's start on the Cowboys. I thought their forward pack was infinitely better in this game than they were in the previous 2. I think Jason Taumalolo was obviously a massive in for them, but I don't necessarily think that he was, the needle, that the man that moved the needle, I should say. I thought he was really good. Again, only playing 46 minutes though, 14 runs, 150 meters. But I liked what I saw from essentially all of the other forwards as well. I thought Jordan McLean, who in the last few weeks and even last couple seasons I've been a bit iffy on, thought he was a lot better in this one with 16 runs for 135 meters. And of course, off the bench, Griffin Neem, one of our favourites here on the Chip and Chase podcast, 49 minutes. So we got a little bit more out of him, which is exactly what I wanted. He scored a try, which was just fantastic for the big fella. 10 runs for 96 metres. And again, Cohen Hess, 10 runs for 104 metres in only 24 minutes. He's been the Cowboys' best forward, in my opinion, 3 weeks in a row, and he's still only playing 24 minutes. Every single run that he's having is bending the line. He's always finding his front. Genuinely, if they had probably 12 more out there, 12 more Cohen Hesses out there on the field, they'd probably win this game. I'd go as far to say that. I thought he was really, really good. So I'm still, a bit concerned about their forward pack in that sense, rotations and minutes. I'm a bit like, what are we doing? Jordan McLean, as I said, had a good game, getting more towards the back end of his career, not necessarily bending the line. Why not give Cohen Hess? Why not give Griffin Neem more minutes? Why is Tamalolo only playing 46? Maybe it's only because he's coming back from injury, but he's sort of been sitting around that minute mark since Todd Payton took over. So there's a few question marks, but it was a much improved performance for the Cowboys, and I think they could have gone even closer until they had, I think it was the Vilea injury, and then it was Sam McIntyre who switched out to centre, and he did an admirable job there. I didn't think he really let anyone down with his defense especially, but when it came to attacking plays, he just didn't have that pace, that punch of Viliami Vilea, and every time they went to swing to the right, it was shut down pretty quickly. So I'm not going to put it all on Sam McIntyre. He punched through 72 minutes across middle in the centres, just doing a bit of everything essentially. But yeah, I think they just needed a little bit more there. I'm not saying if they had Vilea, they win the game, but I think they could have gone damn close. But yeah, a much improved performance by the Cowboys. Still a loss though. They're now 0 from 3 to start the season. I think it gets a bit tougher, or maybe it gets a bit easier. I can't remember what their draw's looking like. But yeah, still a lot of concerns about them. Oh, lastly, while we're on this Cowboys team in terms of standouts, Jackson Purdue. Obviously, there's been a few people talking about Purdue in the last couple of weeks. I even listed him as a sell in my Supercoach buy, swap and sell. In my Supercoach buy, hold, sell. That's it, not buy, swap and sell. But again, we've been pretty vocal about him the last couple of weeks about he hasn't had the best games. He's had some really hard matchups defensively, but he just keeps trying. In this game, it was more of the same of that. He just kept trying. He's always the man tracking back to cover a tackle or a break or whatnot, but he works so hard. 13 runs, 202 meters. It did help that he had that 90-meter runaway try and showed the pace to beat Reece Walsh in that one. But just wanted to give him a shout out. Thought he was really good in this game as well. Over to the Broncos. They got the job done, and maybe they could have, we obviously just said the Cowboys could have brought this closer. The Broncos could have probably got this further away. There were some bad performances and blown opportunities in attack. Reece Walsh had another shocker. 141 meters and 23 runs. That's good. It's showing that he's getting involved. And the thing I'm liking is his confidence is pretty obviously down at the moment, but he's staying involved in the game, and he's going to keep trying, and that's what you want from your best players, and he is, regardless of if he's playing good or not, he's still one of your best players. But a lot of errors in this one, forcing his hand, forcing the pass too often in attack. A lot of the time he's trying to use his speed to sort of skip around players and create an overlap, and when that's not necessarily working because maybe he's running too sideways, too horizontal, then he's just forcing the pass in traffic, and then it's a knock-on from him, or he's forced it to a player who's already being tackled, and it's a knock-on from them. He's just not really getting himself in the right space that we saw from him in the first game. But the big thing is they're winning this game without that. So they're going to be a scary side when he actually does get back into that and he starts pulling the right strings. He did have a great pass over the top to Jesse Arthurs for a try. So there are moments that he's still got that, but there's a lot of blown opportunities from him as well. So the Broncos, it's a really good bounce back, and to get it done over their rivals is exactly what you want. You can only play what's in front of you. And as I said, they probably left a few points out there, but another good victory. Let's talk about the player of the match in this one, and it's not even close. Payne Haas. He is just an absolute freak of nature. I'm not being hyperbolic when I say that he's one of the most gifted athletes that I've ever seen in any sport ever. There's just no world where someone of his size should be able to move the way that he does. The last try is something else, and we'll talk on that in a second. But to punch out 71 minutes at his size, I don't know. I don't have his exact numbers, but I assume he's 6'5". Yeah, probably 6'4", 6'5", 120 almost kilos. To be able to move like he does, to be able to free the arm and the offload in every tackle and break 100 tackles and just outpace fullbacks off breaks, he's just a freak of nature. So let's run through his stats before we talk about that try. Obviously, the try is one of those stats, so that helps as well. 23 runs, 214 metres, 2 line breaks, 1 line break assist, 9 tackle breaks. Where's his offloads? 5 offloads, 36 tackles, 1 missed in 71 minutes of game time. He is a freak of nature. So now let's talk about that final try. So it sealed the deal for the Broncos. And honestly, it sealed the deal for most clubs, because if that's happening to you, you're probably like, fuck, what are we meant to do when something like that's happening? He just burst through a gap off the back of some blinding speed from a front rower. And just, he didn't even look to pass, didn't look to do anything else, maybe run over a fullback. Just looked at the fullback, had a tiny little bit of footwork on him, and just pinned the ears back and just bolted to the line. It was probably 35-metre break that he made there, and just the speed of him, 70-odd minutes into a contest or whatever it was. He is, as I said, he's like nothing I've ever seen. He's one of the most gifted athletes I have ever seen. So, yeah, what can you say? Obviously, will make my team of the week. Captain him in Supercoach, which was just lovely to see as well. But, yeah, he's one of the best players in the NRL, and he's had down years in quotation marks for the last couple by his standards, but those down years are always top 3 front rower in the game, in my opinion. And this year, he's head and shoulders above the rest, which honestly is probably where he should be. There are some fantastic front rowers in this game, including his partner in crime in this game, Patrick Carrigan. He got through 59 minutes, which is there or thereabouts of what you expect from Carrigan, probably more sometimes. But for Haas to do more than Paddy Carrigan and more meters and just everything else, Paddy Carrigan put up 199 meters off 21 runs in this game. He probably had 100 fucking tackles as well. Yeah, 28 tackles, 0 missed, 0 ineffective, so 100% tackle efficiency. It's just, yeah, like Patrick Carrigan, obviously one of my favourites in the show, might be my favourite player currently in the NRL. Him, Connor Tracy, there's a few options, but I love Patrick Carrigan. But Payne Haas is the best front rower and one of the best players in the entire world, in my opinion. And Paddy Carrigan, he makes a top 13 or a top 17 of the best players in the NRL. But Payne Haas is probably the first man I'm picking in a position. So it's no knock on either of these players. As I said, Carrigan had an immense game, could not have done much more, but just goes to show how much of a freak, how much of a genetic freak Payne Haas actually is. Other players that stood out, Adam Reynolds. It's like this man had his hamstrings replaced in the offseason. He's playing the best footy I've seen from him since maybe honestly over a decade. Maybe go back to his grand final, 2014 days. I think from then on was when injuries started occurring. I remember liking a lot of Reynolds in 2015 and 16, but I remember injury creeping into his game. We're only 3 rounds in. Injury definitely could still creep in. But he's just playing some of the best footy I've seen from the man. Scored a try, had 100% accuracy with the goal. 1 line break assist, 1 try assist. He's just doing it all out there. He genuinely is. Another big thing, 29 tackles, 0 missed, 0 ineffective. 100% tackle efficiency from the smallest player in the field is just fantastic. It's unbelievable. I don't think I've ever seen a game where Adam Reynolds has got 100% tackle efficiency. I'm sure it's happened, and I'm not saying he's a bad defender, but he's normally a spot that you would target in attack to go at him because he's a small man. and he stood head and shoulders above the rest in this one. So thought he was unreal, and honestly, he might be at the moment the most in-form halfback in our competition in 2025 so far. He's just playing, he's wound back the clock, and he's playing some of the best footy I have seen from him. So massive game from Adam Reynolds. I thought Gamut Shibasaki was really good. I thought he was very physical in attack and in defense, where he made plenty of good tackles, like a lot of good reads that also led to one-on-one tackles. I think Katoni Stagg's due back next week. We gave Dean Mariner a lot of praise last week, and again, he wasn't bad in this one, but I think Shibasaki is the man to keep that jersey. I think Katoni Staggs comes back on the right-hand side, and Dean Mariner is the man to make way. I think the stats of this game, where Dean Mariner, as I said, had a really good game this last week. I thought in a game like this, where you know Katoni's back the next week, you'd want to have your hands on the ball as much as possible. To me, it seemed like Shibasaki did do that. He was like, okay, look, I'm a chance of losing this jersey next week, so I'm going to go in and play the best game I can, and Dean Mariner is going to have to keep up with me if he wants that jersey. And Dean didn't really do that. Again, not saying he had a poor game, but Shibasaki, 18 runs for 176 metres. Dean Mariner, 11 runs for 74 metres. So there's over 100 metres difference between them. Tackle breaks, 1 from Mariner, 4 from Shibasaki. Defensively, I'm sure Shibasaki was better. Oh, no, very, very similar defensively. So it was 12 tackles for 1 miss from Shibasaki and 14 tackles from 1 miss for Mariner. So both were pretty darn good in that respect as well. As I said, I'm not trying to take the piss out of Dean Mariner, but I thought Shibasaki was excellent, and I think he keeps that centre jersey on the back of it. Thought the wingers were really good as well. Selwyn Cobbo's getting through a lot more work than we're used to. Jesse Arthur's scoring another try. It was just a really good old game from the Broncos. As I said, probably could have been a bit more points on the board for them, but they got the game against a better Cowboys side than we've seen in the last couple of weeks, and they got it over their rivals, so there's only so much you can really say. It's a good bounce-back game from the Broncos. Let's move over to the Sharkies and the Rabbitohs. This game finishing 27-12. It's a weird one. Honestly, the Sharkies, they were just taking the piss in this game. They have well and truly taken their game to the next level. Their attack was just unbelievable. They were so confident in their ability. And honestly, you can probably see that in the scoreline. Like, that'll show up in the scoreline. It'll show up in the highlight reels, because there were a million different tries that were try of the year contenders. But for me, their defense was the big one in this one. I thought it was huge. It was very, very underrated in this game. They managed to keep the Rabbitohs just camped in their own end, and it just constantly forced them to put up some monster kicks from Jamie Humphries especially. He was belting them mainly from like inside his 30 the entire game. And he'd get some whopping distance on him. He can kick a ball, young Jamie Humphries, and he had a really good game, which we'll get to. But the detriment of these big kicks was he was belting them heaps far down the field, which then meant the entire Rabbitohs line had to chase an entire football field to get to the kick. But by the time that their defensive line's sort of getting there, the Sharkies have not just dropped their fullback and dropped their winger back. Their centres, especially Kale Iro, had also dropped back. And then by the time that this Rabbitohs defense is sort of getting there, they're not setting a line because they've had to run an entire football field to get to where this kick is. And then the Sharks spread off the back of that and make easy meters. And I think 2 tries were scored off spreading the ball out of their own end off those big kicks. So that's the thing. Like, those are the things that aren't really going to show up on the stat sheet. You can say, yeah, it was great, kick return attack from the Sharks, which absolutely it was. But that was forced by their defense. It's forced by keeping the Rabbitohs in their own half and forcing the Rabbitohs to do a massive kick. And then the effort by the Sharkies back 5 to get back there and have that overlap and start playing out of their own end, all off the back of their defense. So there's a lot of credit that has to be given to their forward pack for that. And then it's all rightly going to all the credit's going to go to the back 5 for, making those plays. And they were excellent plays. And, you have to be a talented member of the team to be able to do that, or a talented player in general. But a lot of it goes back to their defense. So I wanted to give a massive shout out to the Sharkies for their defense. As I said, the scoreboard reflects that they were taking the piss. Their attack was incredible. They, again, sort of put the cue in the rack by a little bit after half time. They just said, okay, we're not going to be roped in here. And they let in some late tries, and the scoreline's only a 15-point deficit. The Sharks were by far the better side. Do I have concerns with them putting the cue in the rack? Honestly, not really. I just feel like early in this season, they're backing themselves. They're backing themselves against an understrength Rabbitohs side. And it's not necessarily an ego thing, I don't think. I think they just know, look, we don't have to go and do anything expansive now. Let's test our defense. Let's trust in our defense, and let's keep this low scoring. We've done all we need to do in attack. It's not like they let in some really simple tries. The Rabbitohs, both their tries they had to work hard for both of their tries, the Rabbitohs, so it could have been a 27-0 scoreline realistically. Maybe they should have scored more, sure. Regardless, they got the win. They showed what they're about in attack and defense. So I've got a lot of praise for this Sharkies side and this Sharkies performance. In terms of their standout players, let's start with the man on everybody's mouth all the time, Nicho Hynes. I thought he was unbelievable. Like he couldn't do any wrong, and somehow, the media will still find something negative to say about him, and it'll do my head in. But in this game, every touch that he had turned to gold. Like, he always pulled the right strings in attack. He had that first try very early into the contest, taking on his running game and scoring that one, which is a little bit annoying because we had him for a try scorer last week, and obviously we're a little bit too early on that, just a week too early. But yeah, he had that. Then he had all these beautiful balls in attacking opposition. Like, he just always found the right pass. He's such a good player. 101 meters from 10 runs. He kicked again in this one, which I didn't think he was going to. He had that line break. He had 2 line break assists. He had 1 try assist. I don't know what people want from Nicho Hynes that he isn't doing. Like, this was fantastic. And as I said, somehow they'll still find a way to bring him into the negative headlines. I thought he was arguably the best player in the field. Maybe he's I think Kale Ito, which we'll touch on Ito now. I think he undoubtedly was the best player in the field. When we mentioned the players turning around and getting back for those kick chases, as I said, obviously you have your wingers back there, you have your fullback back there, and the centers did a really good job of getting back, particularly Kale Ito over Ramian, who, Ramian was good as well. But Ito scored that sensational, probably try of the year, where Ronaldo Mulitalo picked the ball up in his own end goal, scooped it out, ran out, passed it to, I believe it was Will Kennedy. Then Will Kennedy found Kale Ito. Ito beat Michaeli Ravalawa and then ran the length of the field to score that try. And genuinely probably will be try of the year, or at least, the team try of the year. I thought it was unbelievable. It will be a contender. And as I said, it goes back to Ito being back there for these kick chases. 19 runs, 264 meters, 1 line break, 1 try, 7 tackle breaks, 22 tackles, 3 miss. That's the thing. Like, these Sharky centers are pretty known for being defensively very, very sound and getting through their meters. Like, Jesse Ramian in this game still got through only 127 meters from Jesse Ramian in 12 runs. Didn't miss a tackle, though. Like, that's what these guys are known for. A lot of running meters and a lot of, really good in defense. But then they can come up with these just great individual efforts. And I think in the next year or two, we generally will be talking about Kale Ito as one of the best centers in the competition. And this is his sophomore year. Yes, he's a little bit older. I think he's 24, maybe 25. But yeah, he could very well progress into one of the best players in our competition. Braden Trindle, thought he was excellent. We talk about Hynes pulling all the right strings. Trindle did the same, scoring another try. So both halves scored tries. Didn't necessarily take on the line with his running game too often in this game, but all the time he digs into the line and plays. I love how Braden Trindle plays rugby league. He's a halfback in a 5/8 jersey right now, and he's playing so good. A line break, 2 line break assists. 1 line break assist and a try assist. As I said, the try as well, and just kicks fantastically. Like, Trindle, unreal. Hynes, unreal. This halves combination where there was a lot of question marks on, they're all gone from my mind. I thought they're both fantastic, and I love the way that this Sharkies team is playing. Any other standouts? I thought the forward pack was really good. Adam Fanua-Blake, he's not showing up on the stat sheets in terms of tries at the moment. Obviously scored in round 1 in Vegas, but 19 runs, 197 metres. He is that punch that the Sharkies need. They don't need him to be scoring a try every game like he was at the Warriors. He's not necessarily the focal point of their attack, but he's getting through 197, 900 metres would be crazy. Now, 197 metres, which is that punch that we've been talking about the Sharks have been missing in the middle. He was great. I thought Cameron McInnes, again, great. I love the way he runs in behind the ruck, always finds his front and gets a quick play of the ball. And of course, let's just have a look at his stats. 135 metres from him. Where's the tackles? Probably 100 or 1,000. 36 tackles, 0 missed in 50 minutes or 59 minutes, whatever it was. He was excellent. Talakai was excellent off the bench. Hamlin Uele and Tukuhau Tapua were excellent. Britton Nikota scored a good try. There's every single player in this Sharky side you can comment on being good. Look like Blake Brayley I think he picked up a little bit of a niggle, might be out next week. He's a player that the Sharks can afford to rest. And honestly, with the utmost respect to Blake Brayley, please rest him. Give Jaden Beryl a bloody chance, guys. You have one of the best not even young anymore, but one of the best reserve hookers in the entire game at your disposal. Give Brayley a rest. He does too much work already. Give Beryl a go. And lastly, I thought the wingers were excellent. Obviously, Ronaldo setting up a few of those attacking raids. 18 runs, 197 metres, and Stone Street 12 runs, 132. The last man I want to talk about, which essentially is the last player left to talk about because I've managed to mention everyone in the Sharks team, William Kennedy. It may sound crazy to hear, but I think there's a very real argument to be made that Will Kennedy has been the best fullback across the first 3 games of the NRL season. What he does isn't necessarily showing up on the stat sheet. He's not having, 3 try games or 4 try games or 2 tries, 2 assist games like Trebojevich's and Tedesco's, not that those players necessarily are in so far this league, this year, but he's not doing it like those players do. But he is so safe. He is so good in defense, and he's still doing everything in attack that, as I said, not necessarily showing up on the scoreboard. In this game, 22 runs, 187 metres, 2 line break assists, 3 tackle breaks. That's his stats. Oh, and the try, of course. He did score a try in this one. But, the stats don't read unbelievable performance. It's a bloody good performance, 100%, don't get me wrong. But they don't read unbelievable performance. But if you aren't watching Sharks games, you're not seeing that everything Will Kennedy's doing on and off the ball. He is, for me at the moment, he's probably been the best fullback, across the first 3 games. Trebojevic has only played 1.5. Tedesco's been in a pretty losing side. Edwards is injured. There's not a massive amount of standout fullbacks at the moment. Kalen Ponga has been excellent, but again, a lot of what Pong is doing similarly isn't showing up in stat sheets. They did in the second game, but not necessarily the first or in this most recent game that they've lost. To put it bluntly, Kennedy is sitting this season, the Sharks sitting this season 2 from 3, with their only loss being against the Panthers, where I thought he was probably their best player in that game as well. I think he's having an unbelievable 2025 season so far, and it's just huge because that was one of the biggest questions that needed to be answered for the Sharks. Can they do this with Will Kennedy? Is he the answer at fullback? At the moment, I have to say it's an undoubtedly yes. He is their fullback, and he is one of the best fullbacks in the game as it stands right now. So I wanted to give massive love to him. As for the Rabbitohs, I can't believe we're actually still on this game. Look, I don't think they were awful in this game, to be honest. They definitely weren't great, but I think they just came up against a team at the peak of their powers on a day that just suited their style of footy. I thought they had a much better second half. Again, probably coincides with the Sharks putting the cue in the rack and not really turning up to play too much. But this is a Rabbitohs side still very much decimated by injury, and a couple more ones arose. Dry Gray went off. Oh no, I think Gray was only a HIA, so I think that one was all right. But there's still a few players missing. You had your Michaeli Ravalawa come into this side on the wing to make his club debut, coming across from the Dragons. Like, there's still a lot of things that just aren't at 100% for the Rabbitohs. And I thought they weren't awful. As I said, the Sharks were unbelievable. I don't think the Rabbitohs were awful. I don't know what clubs were meant to do against the the Sharks making those players out of their own end. Maybe you have a better kick chase, but again, it's all forced from that Sharks defense as well. So for me, it just felt like the Sharks dismantled a team, not that the team played bad. So it's an interesting one. They're meant to get, I think it's meant to be Latrell Mitchell and Alex Johnston back, and Ewan Aitken back in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So, keep in mind, the Rabbitohs, this was their first loss of the season. You can afford to have these losses. It was more so, can they keep their head above water for their big name players to come back? They're more than doing that. I'm not too fussed about how they're playing at the moment. I thought they kept trying, which is the big thing. They scored 2 late tries. They didn't just go, oh, fuck it. Everything is against us. Let's just get out of here and get back on the bus. They scored those 2 late tries. I thought Cody Walker had some good moments. He had a few errors, but he just kept trying at his age and as a leader in this side. I loved what I was seeing from him. Jack Whiten scored a nice try off a Cody Walker kick, just to reiterate that. Jamie Humphries, he scored a try again and made 45, I think it was. 45 tackles at halfback. Peter Mamazelos, 63 tackles, 6 missed, sure, but 63 tackles. As I said, the possession was just never really with the Rabbitohs until that second half. I'm not taking too much away from this game. Disappointing, sure, maybe if you want to read about it that way. For me, it's just a loss to a team at the peak of their powers, as I said, on a day that suited that style of footy. So, yeah, it's a loss. It'll ring up that way. I don't think the Rabbitohs take a huge amount away from it. I think they tried their bloody hearts out, and at least they went down with a fight and scored a couple of tries at the end. In terms of standouts, as I said, Cody Walker I really liked. He ran for 101 metres at 5/8. Jamie Humphries was good, of course, scoring one of their only tries. He also ran for 78 metres, and as we said, 45 tackles from halfback is absurd. Besides that, not too much. As I said, Pen Mamazella, shout out for the 63 tackles in 80 minutes. And the last thing I want to say, which sort of reads back into the Sharks, Jai Gray in this one, the last 2 games he's ran for 280 plus metres and 300 metres. In this game, 15 runs, 88 metres. So that just goes to show, again, that Sharks defence, how good they were at containing him. And I think if you contain Jai Gray, it limits a lot of this Rabbitohs attack. So, yeah, I'm not taking too much away from it. Not too many standout performers, sure, but I don't think anyone was necessarily awful in this game. It's just one that, you write off. So let's move on to the next game. Of course, the Dolphins losing to the Wests Tigers 18-30. So let's talk about it from a game perspective just to start. I genuinely really, really enjoyed this game. I'd go as far to say as I loved it. It was my favourite game of the round. It was so physical. There was a lot of passion on display to the point where there was a point in this game where the referee singled out Tom Gilbert, the Dolphins captain, and said, that he was letting his passion come through maybe a bit too much and told him to set a better example for his side as the leader, set a better leadership. But honestly, that energy from Gilbert was example enough, in my opinion. That's exactly what his side needed. They needed him to be forcing errors or saving tries and roaring and yelling and, maybe a bit of push and shove. I don't really mind. I think that's going to get a response more than just, saying, boys, gather around, we're doing this. And sure, you listen to your captain, that you're going to get a response from that. But seeing your captain, your leader, layer up and play with his heart on his sleeve, that is always going to get more of a response from me as a player, at least in my time playing rugby league. That's always got more of a response from me. So I thought it was a bit interesting, but that, that the referee singled him out and said, maybe stop. And fair enough. I'm not blaming that on the referee. You don't want push and shove. You don't want the niggle. You just want a nice, clean game of footy as a referee. But as players, I'm glad that he didn't let that deter him. And he just, kept wearing his heart on his sleeve and inspiring his side. Didn't inspire them enough for the win, though, because the Tigers played with a very similar passion, a very similar energy. And you can see that when they started forcing errors late in the game and just, they let their passion be on display, and they were roaring and they were layering up. And I love that. And I really like what I'm seeing from the Tigers. I think it might be the best thing that I've seen from them so far is that they don't know when to quit. Over the past few seasons, if they were down by 2 or more tries, it was game over. There weren't any hope in hell of getting back into this game, but now they just do not know when they're out of the contest or when they, can keep on winning this game. They bombed a fair few attacking opportunities, but they never really looked flustered about it. This game went right down until, I think it was they were down until like the 63rd minute. And then they only got up in the 68th minute. So for them, at that point, you start thinking, okay, panic. We're bombing all these opportunities. We need to start trying something new or settling into a thing. The big thing, as I said, that I'm liking, they're not flustered about that. They knew that their systems would work eventually, and they just kept on coming back at the Dolphins. So I wanted to give a massive shout out to them. They were unreal. I love their passion. I love their energy, and I love the way that they're playing footy. I think Jerome Luai, a lot of the question marks about him at halfback have already been put to bed. I think he's doing a great job there. He's not doing anything spectacular. He's not highlight reeling at the moment, but they're building into their systems and they're trusting in them, and that's the big thing I'm liking from this Tigers side. As I said, normally if they're down by 2 tries, it's game over. There's no hope in hell of getting back in, but now you can't count the Tigers out, and I'm really, really enjoying that. I've mentioned a few times how much I love their forward rotation, having Terrell May and Fanua Pole, 2 typical front rowers start, but then also having Alex Twal at lock to do through, the hard work for 20, 25 minutes, get through his meters, make his tackles, and then bring Jack Bird on. And, that reigns true on this one. All those players excelled. But I think a big part of that forward rotation that I really haven't mentioned is the use of Talon De Silva and Api Coruscant. Appy's role is shrinking a little bit. He's playing a lot less minutes. I think last year he averaged probably 75 upwards. He was nearly an 80-minute hooker. This year, Talon De Silva's getting more. I think they brought him on about 10 before halftime, around that, maybe, 9, 8, 7 minutes before halftime, around that 10-minute mark before halftime. And it was the perfect time for him to inject himself. He had some really, really good touches, including, a try in the 35th minute. So they injected him at the right time where the contest needed that little bit of a live wire, and Appy had already done a lot of the hard work. Talon comes on and he, excels. I think he played maybe the opening 10 of the second half as well. So probably got through 20, 25 minutes. Let me actually just confirm exact minutes that Talon De Silva played. 23 minutes, yeah. That's where I expected him to sort of sit at. And Api Coruscant played 57 minutes. And then Appy came back on, which, at that point you're like, okay, Talon's ripping and tearing here. You might be hesitant to put Appy back on, or maybe you look to put Appy on in a different role or move Talon. But no, they stuck to their systems. As I said, this is the game plan. Talon, you're coming back off. Appy, you go back out there for the rest of this game. And then Appy came on and he absolutely excelled as well, scoring a try himself. That I believe that was one that sealed the game. Yep. And he set up the one to Seyfarth, I want to say. But there were plenty of times that he was just running and looking very, very dangerous around the ruck as well. So I thought he was unbelievable, Api Coruscant, and I loved what I saw from Talon De Silva. So I really like that rotation. And as I said, I just think that needs to get a mention in with all of the big boppers and their rotation with them that I've really been liking. So I guess it just goes back into this game plan of the Tigers and how they're playing their footy and the structures and the systems that they've put in place. It's looking really good. I'm really enjoying watching the Wests Tigers. In terms of other standouts for them, Seyfarth was really good, I thought. Got through a lot of work in the second row, played the full 80 in this one. Scored a very rewarding try, only 87 metres, but again, it's the 32 tackles that I'm liking from him. Just really good stuff. We mentioned their forwards already. Alex Twal again. Let's just run through numbers of them. Alex Twal, 123 metres and how many tackles? 27 tackles, 0 miss, 0 ineffective. Shock horror, the only player in this Tigers side with a 100% tackle efficiency. He does it well. I love Alex Twal. Benoit Polle, 22 runs, 212 meters. He was unbelievable. Only one tackle break in that and no line breaks as well. So it's all just hard yakka. 56 minutes, so a bit more of an increased role from Benoit Polle. Terrell May, 65 minutes once again. 19 runs, 182 meters. No tackle breaks from him. And honestly, no offloads, 42 tackles as well. So Dolphins did a decent job of containing Terrell May, and he still punches out really, really good numbers, elite numbers, if you will. So there's the forward pack sort of numbers that I really enjoyed. The rest of their standouts, Sania Taruva, you've got to mention him once again. You know, obviously it's another 2 tries to him to go along with, I think, the 3 that he scored last week. So he's up to 5 for the season now. But it's once again the work coming out of his own half that really has me talking about him right now. He has had a few bloody massive runs that turned the momentum for his side. I remember one in particular where it was probably a 15, 20-meter run where he just got a full head of steam in behind the ruck, found his front. It was a fantastic run when the Dolphins had him camped in their own end, and that really turned the tide for them. And I've always said that if you're getting yourself involved in the game and you're doing, you know, the tough stuff early, then these tries at the back end will come. So really, really good game from Sania Taruva. I really liked what he did. I think what he ended up with 150 meters as well. Love that. Adam Dewey, again, stat sheet doesn't read where he was good, but he had to play a few different positions in this game, wing, center, etc. And it's just so good seeing him come back from injury and just be a focal point of this Tigers team still. He's in a different role, but he's such a big part of it. Defensively, he was unreal, especially when he switched to wing, where he's very much not used to those reads and whatnot. I thought he made a real fist of it. I thought he was good. Stafford Toa, I thought, was really good again in this game. Defensively, I think their centers are looking really good, which again, if you can sort that out, you're a long way on to having a bloody good season. So love that. I thought their halves were good. Lockie Galvin still has a little bit of, crabbing across field in his game. But again, it's just the fact that he's taking the ball on all the time, just having 21 touches or 21 runs, 145 meters. He just loves it, Lockie Galvin. So massive, massive win for the Tigers. Just a really great team effort. Over to the Dolphins. It's now another loss, so they now start this season 0 from 3. I'm finding it really hard to sort of get a read on them. They blew 4 or 5, try scoring opportunities in this game. Like there was the Ray Stone knock on the line. There was the Jack Bostock knock on off like the chip bomb sort of kick, which would have been a try if he caught that. There was the Avarillo knock on where Isaiah Katoa made a fantastic break and put a beautiful little grubber kick in broken play where Avarillo flew through. If he takes that, that's another try. So they blew a few opportunities, and I'm pretty sure there's 1 or 2 more that are completely escaping my mind at the moment, but there's 3 that I can just remember off the top of my head. They don't look like a particularly bad football side. I think there's a lot in here that looks really good, namely Isaiah Katoa, who is looking incredible, and we'll touch on him in a second. So I'm finding it quite hard to get a read on them. I don't think they were bad in this game. As I said, I love the passion, the energy they displayed. And for a lot of this game, they were up. And then the Tigers, they clicked into the gear at the end there, and the Dolphins couldn't answer it. I don't know where they're lacking. To me, it feels like they're lacking another big middle, which it's just killer to say because they signed Tom Flegler, and that hasn't panned out the way anyone wants it to with his injury and whether or not he'll play again. But God, they could use a Tom Flegler in this side. Like Felice Kafusi, I like the effort he gets through in defense in the middle there, and he's a leader of this side. You need more from him, though. Max Plath, I'm not the biggest fan of him in this second row position. It's not doing a whole lot for me. Oren Keeley ended up going to the bench in this one. I wanted to see a bit more out of him, but in fairness, Kulikefu Finifuyaki was quite good. I don't know. It's just I don't know exactly what they're missing. Last week, I feel like you could pinpoint what was going wrong with them. This week, I couldn't really. They just lost the game. And I thought Daniel Saifiti was really good. I thought he had some really great moments and brought that punch through the middle. In fact, he was the only Dolphins forward to run for over 100 meters. So they just need someone to, really step up and do that load with him, in my opinion. Let's go to their standout players, though. Isaiah Katoa, he's gone past being just, one of the best young halves in the game. He has quickly become one of the best halves, period, in the NRL at the moment. He is incredible. His vision, his game sense, they've come on leaps and bounds, and he's finally demonstrating the running game that actually made him so dangerous in the lower grades as well. He hasn't been poor at all in the first 2 years of his NRL career. He obviously debuted as an 18-year-old. He's been so talented that they wanted to get him in early and get those reps under his belt. And now at 20 years old, he's showing that he is one of the best in the game. He's got a bloody scary future ahead of him, and thought he was excellent. As I said, there's a couple opportunities. I think both the Bostock knock-on and the Averillo knock-on were off kicks from him. He probably ends up with 2 more try assists in this game. The game could have been won by him or, just by this Dolphins team in general. But yeah, he couldn't have done more out there. 12 runs, 115 meters. It says 0 line breaks. That is bullshit, because that run that he made where he kicked it for Averillo, who knocked it on, that's a line break in my opinion. You look at these stats though, 0 line break assists, 0 try assists, 0 everything, 7 tackle breaks though. But yes, again, that's why you can't just look at stats, guys. You need to watch that game. He was unbelievable out there. He was the best player on the field for the Dolphins, and the stats don't reflect that at all. So yeah, I thought he was incredible. Cody Nikorima, we said from the preseason that he needed to be the halves partner of Katoa for the Dolphins this season, and in this game he sort of backed up why we said that. I thought he was really good. He came up with that beautiful ball to Saifidi to put him through a gap, who then, linked up with Herbie Farnworth, and he raced away to score a little try there. And then there was another one that he did that I can't recall. Do I have it in my notes? Did I say about Cody Nikorima? Followed it up the next set with his own try. Could have read that one off the stats, yeah. So when they went over to the right-hand side, and, they're thinking his pass, they're thinking his kicking game, because he'd already torn them apart with that in this game. So then he takes it to the right. The space opens up because they're sort of holding back, waiting for him to do that. And just bolts through and scores a try himself. So I thought Cody Nikorima was really, really good as well. And I really like the way that halves combination is pairing up. It's going to be interesting, obviously, Nikorima. I think he's about 30, 31, around that age now. Who their next man up is going to be. Obviously, they have Kurt Donahue on their books, who, to me, his best position is 5'8", but he's been used in a utility role, and he was pretty good when he came on the field here. But yeah, I don't really know who they're going to target for that jersey. They obviously have cash to spend. It could be they could go onto the market for something pretty scarily here, and that would be it'd be pretty scary if they get an insane player to partner Katoa. Other standouts, Herbie Farnworth got through his usual work, 209 meters from 21 runs, 8 tackle breaks, 1 try. Just what more can you say? But it's, as I said, really hard to get a read on the Dolphins. 0-3 to start the season though, and that's not good enough. I'll quickly check their draw and see who they've got next week, because it'll be a big old test for them. The Dolphins have the Broncos in Suncorp Stadium next week. So a big test there. It's going to be a really good indicator of whether or not they can get up for that game. But let's move on to the last 3 games, because this podcast is running over time because I ramble. The Titans defeating the Knights 26-6. I don't know. This was another hard game to get a read on. I tipped the Knights in my tips, so I went down, but I bet on the Titans all week. So I don't know why I actually tipped the Knights, because I never really... I mean, I thought they definitely could have won. They've still got enough quality in their side to win. But I always thought that the Titans were going to get this one down. I thought it was a pretty disappointing game from the Knights, considering how good they were in their first 2 games. To go out and only put 6 points on this Titans team is pretty disappointing. You can cut them a bit of slack, when you consider that they were without 3 key members of their forward pack in Leo Thompson, Kai Pearce-Paul, and Dylan Lucas, especially Dylan Lucas, who has been excellent to start this season. But injuries and suspensions are going to happen, throughout a footy season. So you need your depth players to step up when those things happen. And I just don't think they really did in this one. These were some of the big concerns I had for the Knights coming into the season and why I had them so low on my predicted rankings. So it's just going to be a big test to see how they sort of come back from there. Dylan Lucas, they reported in the post-match press conference that he is out for 6 weeks. So going to be hard to replace him. I thought Thomas Cant filled in pretty admirably in defense, especially in this game, but you very much missed the attack of Dylan Lucas as well. I think Kai Pearce-Paul is missing one more game with suspension, or maybe he's back next week, and Leo Thompson shouldn't be too far off as well. So they'll get those guys back in and they'll be better for it. But as I said, you're going to find yourself in more of these situations throughout the season where you miss some more players. And it's just, I don't know if they have the depth to really stand up to it. Their forward pack was already a point of concern for me heading into the season. And the first couple of weeks showed that they can compete with some of the best on there. Well, not even on their day. I mean, they've had a soft-ish draw to start the season, but their forward packs can more than compete. They have enough talent there. But it's as soon as their players go off the field and as soon as players get injured and suspended, whether or not their fringe players can do that. So that's where I'm going to have these concerns. Regardless, though, they're still 2-1 to start this season. I just thought this was a really disappointing game from them. Over the Titans, though, they got the win, so, that's already an improvement from last week, particularly in their defense. I thought that was their big improvement here. I thought their defense was absolutely superb. It's a Knights team without their forward pack, but it's still got attacking players like Kalen Ponga, Greg Marju, Bradman Best, Dane Gagai, Fletcher Sharp. Like, there's still a lot of attacking flair in this Knights side to keep them to one try, and that try was literally in the 74th minute of the game, and it was off some unstructured sort of play. Yeah, you can't really fault that from the Titans. Their attack still has a little bit left to click into gear. But they got the job done. Yeah, they got this win, and that's all you can really say from them. 26-6 is a bloody good win, and that's probably what you need to see from the Titans. We know that their attack is potent, and yeah, it was a little bit scrappy in this one, but they got the job done. They won by 20 points, so you can be scrappy and win by that margin. You're well on your way to a good victory. So we know that they've got that attack. It's the defense that we've really wanted to see from the Titans for the last few years, and they showed a lot more of that in this game. I do think that Jaden Campbell, he let them down in a few different areas with his kicking game. He's very much a work in progress still. I think their halves in general are very much a work in progress, but he had a few kicks that went too deep and not high enough to even be contested. So he gave away a few cheap 7-tackle sets. And, better sides would have made the Titans pay for those. But the big positive for them was that they were able to defend those mistakes. And aside from those kicking errors, Jaden Campbell was absolutely fantastic, to be honest. His long kicking game has come on absolutely leaps and bounds. He's got a really big boot on him that I didn't think he actually possessed, or he maybe ever could possess. But he's still very much a run-first player. Footy just flows through his blood. He's just so instinctive in the way that he plays, and that just makes him so dangerous. I love that. I love how he can be as a halfback. Obviously, everyone said he can't do it. Why can't he? Why don't we look back at Preston Campbell, who was winger, fullback, 5'8", halfback? Why can't we look at Presto and be like, Jaden's him? Like, Jaden is, respectfully, a bigger version of Preston Campbell. So if Preston could do those things and win a Dahlia medal and win a premiership, why can't Jaden Campbell do a similar sort of style of footy? So I have a lot of faith that he will. As I said, he's so fun to watch because he's just a footy player through and through. And I love that he still has those instincts in that running game. He's still essentially a fullback out there that has a big boot and can get you around the park. So I thought he was really good. He obviously scored that try on the left-hand side, just running through a half gap and fending through. I think he had a try assist to someone as well, but I can't recall who it was to. Let me pull up the stats just to make sure whether or not he did or did not have them. I swear he had a try assist as well. Yeah, try assist, line break assist, line break, try. Can't remember who the try assist was to. But the options were, if anybody can remember, Jojo Fafita, who was over on the right-hand side. No, that was the Keanu Keeney try assist. In fairness, he played a hand in that one where he got the ball through a half gap, offloaded to Keeney, and then Keeney broke through and threw it to Jojo Fafita, so it wasn't that one. Could have been the Beau Fermor one, but again, to me, that was Beau Fermor, individual brilliance, breaking through about 5 tackles and scoring. And then there was the David Fafita try. It might have been the David Fafita try. I can't remember. Either way, one of those tries is given as a try assist to him. But I thought Jaden Campbell was really, really good. Keanu Keeney, obviously, we mention him all the time here on the Chip and Chase. Love Keanu Keeney. Absolutely adore him. The Michelin man, as we want to call him. As I say, I love this bloke. He just bounces around and off players like he's made of rubber, which hence the Michelin man, in case that wasn't already a given. He has so much heart, though. Like, to be his size and make as many hard runs as he does is so inspirational. I'd love to be a forward on his team and just see him making that many runs at his size. God, it would inspire me to up my workload and be like, fuck, if he's getting through that, what am I doing? I need to do what he's doing. So, yeah, I thought he was excellent. Topped the meter count with 221. Obviously had that try assist to Jojo Fafita, which I think, forward pass, but they didn't pick up on that and realistically didn't have too much of a bearing on the result of this game. But yeah, I thought he was really good. Tino Fa'asuamaleaui, he has looked like he has not missed a beat. I like how the Titans are using him. He's obviously still getting back into fitness, but he's still playing pretty decent minutes. 55 minutes is still on the upper end of where you want from middle forwards. But they're sort of using 2 or 3 interchanges on him a game. So it's not like he's just doing, 30-minute splits. He's doing like a 20-minute take him off, 20-minute take him off, 20-minute take him up, put him on sort of thing. And I think that's the best way to use him. He's your best forward. You want him out there for as long as you can, but you can't overwork him, especially coming back into game fitness. But I thought he was excellent. 17 runs, 147 metres. He had that offload to Campbell, which Campbell had the offload to Kinney, and then Kinney had the pass to Jojo Fafita. So that was all off the back of a Tino hard run and offload. So goes to show that he's still got that attack in him. Regan Campbell-Gillard, I am not seeing much from him at the moment. So you definitely need more of him. Fodder Waker, I thought was good. Had some good runs and had some really good tackles. And David Fafita, the big one, off the bench, played 55 in this one. A lot of people talking about his minutes and whatnot. He came back from surgery. It's not like he's out of favour. If he was out of favour, they wouldn't have re-signed him literally last year. To me, he's just coming back from injury and working his way back into a game role. And in this game, he showed that he's not far off that 80-minute role, and he'll be fantastic once he's there. 11 runs, 91 metres, 2 tackle breaks, 1 try in 55 minutes off the bench. Thought he was excellent. And his second row partner, because Cleese Haas started. But Beau Fermor scored, as I said, a great individual try. 9 runs, 81 metres as well, and probably 27 tackles. Actually, a few missed tackles from Beau Fermor, so not his best, but to me, I thought he looked pretty good. The eye test said that he looked pretty good for me. Over to the Knights. Look, as I said, not really many standout players for them. They only scored the 1 try from Bradman Best. And I thought he was good. He had his moments of 19 runs, 186 metres, and of course that try. He deserved it if anyone did. I thought James Schiller was pretty darn good, just got through a lot of work. He keeps somehow just breaking tackles and making a heap of runs every single game. I can't remember if I just said his metres, but 126, 4 tackle breaks. He looked really good. Gagai had his moments, 9 tackle breaks and lots of metres. They kept Greg Marju and Fletcher Sharp pretty darn quiet in this game. And Kalen Ponga couldn't really, get himself into the contest as much as he would have liked as well. But, of course, he was the man who came up with the try assist to Bradman Best. As I said, I think their forward pack was just a bit rolled in this game. If I can get up the metres of their forward pack, Adam Elliott had 124. And Thomas Cant, Cant ran for a lot more metres than I thought he did just watching the game. 18 runs, 152 metres from second row, and 56 tackles. Holy shit, that is a knock. I knew he was tackling his ass off in this game, but I didn't notice him making that many runs and having that many metres. That's a fucking incredible knock from Thomas Cant. Played the full 80 at second row, so maybe he can definitely fill in there while Lucas is out. It's just whether or not, what they can get from their middle forwards. Jacob Saifiti, 111 metres, but we're going to need more minutes and metres out of him if they're going to compete with their other forwards out, in my opinion. So yeah, not much to take away from the Knights from an individual standpoint in this one. So let's move over to the Bulldogs and the Eels. And I'll be honest, I know it was a close game and, it went down essentially to the wire, and the commentators did a bloody good job to hype the spectacle of the contest up. But I was very bored watching this game. The attack was just dismal from both sides, and, even the tries that they did score just wasn't entertaining. It was just, I don't know. Respectfully, obviously, the Bulldogs, they got the win, and Bulldogs fans are happy to grind out them. They're now 3-0 to start the season. They might be the only team that is 3-0 because the Raiders just lost. I'll have to check that in a second, but it's a good win from the Bulldogs, a grindy win which they needed to do. But yeah, games like this, when it's not my team winning them, very similar to that Warriors game, but at least I supported the Warriors, so it gave me that level of intrigue. Games like this, I wonder why the hell I do what I do, because this was, I didn't really enjoy watching this game, and that's coming from a diehard footy fan. As I said, I thought the commentators did a really good job to hype it up. They were very much, they brought the energy and kept everybody trying to be interested, but I was like, I don't know, didn't really appeal to me all that much. The Eels, they're an interesting side. Obviously a better performance defensively was their big one here. They were pretty strong in defense. Their attack is just, I don't know, like Dylan Brown, obviously, he's not a halfback despite whatever the Knights believe. I don't even think he's going to play halfback at the Knights. I reckon Fletcher Sharp will make that move to halfback. But if he's not going to be halfback, why'd you sign him on $1.3 million a year? Because I don't think many 5'8" or any 5'8" that aren't Cameron Munster should be on that money. So I don't know what they're really doing. I thought Dean Hawkins was solid. He had a good kicking game. I don't know if Mitchell Moses changes a huge amount for this side. Maybe they win this game, sure, but that's only because the Bulldogs only put on 16 points. Other sides, I don't know what Mitch Moses is going to achieve for them. There's just not enough going on at this Eels side for me to actually believe they can be anything. And I actually had hopes for them at the start of the season. In terms of standout players, let's start with the big one. Zach Lomax was unbelievable. And if you have more players like Zach Lomax in your side, they win this one. He was just trying and trying and trying. He had 31 runs in this game for 303 meters. He was just everywhere in attack. He was putting chip and chases over. He had 9 tackle breaks. He just couldn't stop working. He kept trying to inspire this side. And let it be known, I've never been the biggest fan of Zach Lomax. He's always had that talent. But from everything I've heard and watched of him, I've always wondered, is he ever going to be that sort of player? But in this game, he just tried to inspire them in every other way. And as your new recruit coming to this side, and when inspiration has never really been his game, he's always been known for the flashy stuff and, maybe not playing to the standard. To come into this game and be like, righto, I'm going to put the team on my back and just go and go and go. I thought he was absolutely amazing, and I thought he's a great signing for the club. Obviously, it's difficult for him going to this club who's now really struggling, and he obviously sort of wanted to challenge more for a premiership, and when he signed, they weren't nearly this bad. But he couldn't have done much more, Zach Lomax. I thought he was unbelievable. 303 metres from centre is just, absurd. Sam Rani, I thought was good. Penasini was much better defensively in this game. Still had a couple moments where he was caught out, but mainly really, really good. Isaiah Iyongi, 26 runs for 212 metres from him, and he had the try assist to, I believe it was to Josh Adokar on the left. It had to be Josh Adokar. Was that their only try? No, it was Penasini and Adokar. I think it was the try to Josh Adokar that he threw that ball. I like Isaiah Iyongi. I said on the Casual Athlete podcast that he is a gun of a player. He's got a passing and running game to him that makes him so dangerous. And he hasn't had the chance to really demonstrate that in the NRL season yet because, the Eels are awful. But this game, I thought you got to see a bit more glimpses into that. Other standouts, it's really hard to name too many. Jack Williams had his moments, but he still had a couple silly errors and, penalties given away. But he played 74 minutes, between prop and second row. He's part of their leadership group. He ran for 121 metres, which was the most of all of their forwards. So, like, he's still trying out there. He made 44 tackles as well. So you can't really put this game on him. Jermaine Hopgood, he's trying. He's only in 56 minutes a game, which honestly I like. Don't wear him out at the moment. Don't make him do all the tough stuff when you're in a rebuild. Just give him a bit of time off. But 93 metres from him, probably 100 tackles, 48 tackles, 1 missed. Yeah, I don't know. There's not a whole lot else that really impressed me. I thought Joey Lussick was better at hooker than Brendan Hands was in the first couple of games. And I'm sort of an Brendan Hands advocate. I've always preferred Hands as the player, and I like what I see from Hands. But I thought Lussick was pretty good in this one. He had some really good kicks from dummy half, which turned the Bulldogs around. Addo Carr scored a try on his Eels debut. But yeah, not a massive amount to talk about from the Eels, and I wish I could talk about it, but honestly, Eels fans probably just don't want to talk about their club at the moment. For the Bulldogs, they got the job done. It was scrappy. It was a hard-fought game, but honestly, that's the games that they like to win. I think the big thing about this, Eels or not, is the last few games have let tries a lot of points in, regardless of winning. This game, they let fuck all in. And as I said, Eels, sure, you can only play what's in front of you. I thought they defended really, really well. In terms of standout players for them, Connor Tracy, always one of my favourites. Had that try assist, ran for 211 metres off 25 runs. And yeah, that try assist, line break assist to Blake Wilson, who also ran the ball 20 times, scored a try, and had 159 metres. Bronson Xerri, I thought was a bloody handful out there. He looked very, very dangerous for 23 runs, 197 metres in a try. Yeah, he just looked really good out there. Marcelo Montoya was good. It's good that they're getting this amount of production from their back five. Let's just say that. Like, their forward pack been notably, talked about as being quite small. But when their back five are doing the work that they're doing here, then you don't need your forward pack to do all that much in terms of production and meterage. So, that's a big positive for the Bulldogs in that sense. They still want a bit more out of their forward pack, but when their back five are doing what they're doing here, you can let them off the hook a bit. I just wanted to say as well, the Saluka Fafita try, which just not necessarily summed up this game, because I thought the rest of this game was pretty gritty and pretty good defensively. But that Saluka Fafita try was some of the softest defense you will ever see. That was the one that Jack Williams just missed. And that's why I say, he had a good game numbers-wise. He reads well, played a lot of minutes and got through good numbers and tried his heart out there. But God, that miss on Saluka Fafita was just very, very, very poor from a leader of your club in Jack Williams. But yeah, look, sorry I haven't spent too much time in this game. It wasn't one that really interested me. I lost sort of focus a few times. I didn't have many notes to put down. But the Bulldogs, that's 3 for 3 to start their season. They are shaping up very, very well. The Eels, 0 from 3. We'll have to see where they go from here. Let's jump into the final game of the round, the Seagulls and the Raiders. And honestly, we actually are going to go through this one quickly, because despite the fact the scoreline's 40-12, you'd think there's a lot to say. There wasn't really much to say. The Eagles were great. The Raiders were poor. The Raiders were really let down by Corey Horsburgh sin bin. So in that time that Corey Horsburgh was off the field, he went off in the 21st minute. The Seagulls scored in the 22nd, the 27th, the 29th. Then Corey Horsburgh probably comes back on, but then they scored on the 32nd, the 37th. That momentum swing from when Corey Horsburgh was sent to the sin bin, the game was over. By the time he came on back onto the field, the game was already over. So, you can say that there's still the rest of that game. You're only 10 in the bin. There's still 70 minutes of the contest where you have to come back into it and play well. And they didn't necessarily do that, because obviously Simpkin, the Garrick second try, the Garrick third try, and the Garrick fourth try all came while the Raiders had 13 men on the field. But to me, it didn't matter. That had already broke their spirits. And that's not me defending the Raiders. They shouldn't have been deterred by that. They should have put up more of a fight. I tipped them in this game to put up more of a fight. If you're going to let in 3 tries, essentially 4 tries in the time that you have one player off, and just let that break your spirits. You shouldn't have turned up to the game in the first place, because sin bins are going to happen here every now and then. Like, you never want them to happen. They're going to happen. You need to practice defending. I'm sure clubs do it, that they defend with 12 players to get those reps in under their belt. If you're going to just let that 10-minute period dampen your spirits, then you shouldn't have turned up to play the other 70 in the first place. You should just put in a forfeit and let it be done. They did score a couple late tries to, at least put themselves on the board. But yeah, for this one, it's another hard game to get a read on, because the Manly Seagulls scored all their tries. Well, not all their tries, but they scored a fair whack of their tries in that 10-minute period, and then the Raiders just turned off. Again, though, you can only play what's in front of you, and the Seagulls did that. It was a good contest for 20 minutes, and then from then on, the Seagulls just were able to pick them apart. I think if there's a club that you don't want to have a man down on, it's against the Manly Seagulls. Even without Tom Trbojevic, they have so many attacking weapons. Ruben Garrick, 4 tries is unbelievable. What's even more unbelievable to me, though, is he did 4 tries and he ran for less than 100 metres in the entire game. I think that's absurd. Like, he was fantastic out there, and also congratulations to him, who welcomed his child, I think, the day before this game. So every celebration he did was rocking the cradle, and I thought that was really sweet. So it was a big 24 hours for Ruben Garrick between the birth of his child and this game, and 4 tries. But yeah, still less than 100 metres. Just 4 tries, less than 100 metres sort of baffles me, but he was really good. Lehi Opawate, I think he has very much bridged that gap that they need at fullback. Like, when Tom Trbojevic is out, everyone's like, Manly are done. They're obviously not anymore. Lehi Opawate, and even, to an extent, when Garrick and Kula filled in at parts of last year, they can very much compete. But Lehi Opawate is just so good that, I'd probably still back this Seagulls side to get in and around the top 8 if they had Trbojevic out for the season, because of the quality of Lehi, Kula, Garrick, these other players that can fill in roles. Tommy Talau, Clayton Falalo, Viega. They've got heaps of different players that can fill in those roles if they need them to. And so I'd back them to be a top 8 side. So I thought he was really good. Daly Cherry Evans, he pulled the strings, and he just sort of picked apart this Raiders side as soon as that sin bin happened. Again, stats don't read that way, but a lot of what was happening was off the back of Daly Cherry Evans and just finding the right man and putting them in space. Homole Olakawatu, after a very poor game against the Warriors last week, well, maybe not poor game, but very poor by his standards, 227 meters. I don't know why I said 227 meters from 15 runs from Olakawatu, 7 tackle breaks, no tries, probably had try assists. No try assists. It's just the hard work that you want from Olakawatu, and it's good that he's showing up for those sort of games after the poor game against the Warriors. I guess the big talking point out of this one, Taniela Paseka, I believe it was an Achilles rupture, or I think it was Achilles. It might have been like patella tendon. Regardless, big injury, probably sees him out for the rest of the year. Not a man that they can really afford to lose. He's one of their best middle forwards. I thought Siasiwa Taukeaho was really good in this one, and he might have to get into a bit more minutes, but yeah, not the name that you really need going down in a game that essentially was already won. It wasn't won when he did it, but yeah, it's just not what the Manly Seagulls needed moving forward. As I said, most of their players were good. Ben Trbojevic was really good, 158 metres, Taukeaho 140. Ethan Bullymore scored a double, went very, very close to a hat-trick off the bench. Played 44 minutes for 2 tries, 17 runs, 154 metres. I think he's up to 3 or 4 tries for the season now, Ethan Bullymore. He's playing bloody good. I don't know if you start him at front row for the next game with Paseka out. You probably don't, in my opinion, but I think he's the one who gets more minutes on the back of this. I think you want him around that 50-minute mark at least now. I think with the production that he's putting out there, that's where you sort of want him. So I thought he was really good. But yeah, it's a tough game to get a read on for the Seagulls. More so for them than the Raiders, because the Raiders, yeah, you don't know what they're going to put up when they have their full team on the field. But for me, it doesn't matter. the fact that they put their heads down in shame as soon as they started conceding points was just very worrying signs, and Ricky Stewart is going to absolutely blast them for this because that's not what a Ricky Stewart side does. They fight, they grit and grind no matter, and they didn't do that in this one. So the Seagulls, they got a very good win against the side that was undefeated heading into this game and who I tipped, and without Tom Trbojevic. So all those things read really well for the Seagulls, but it's going to be interesting to see how they do it against the side with 13 on the park. Who have they got next week to see what their test next week is? The Eels. So not much of a test, actually, but we'll see how they go for that game. Tommy Trbojevic expected to be back for that one. For the Raiders, I mean, I've sort of already encompassed everything about them in this game. What I could have said has already been said. Standout players, there weren't really. KO Weeks had a lot of errors. I thought Jamal Fogarty was pretty poor with his errors. There's not much that really did much for me. Hudson Young scored one of their only tries and also was one of their only players to run for over 100 metres, and him and Trey Mooney. Matty Nicholson played the full 80, which is good for Supercoach, but didn't nearly have the impact that he had the other week. But also 44 tackles from him and 0 missed. In fact, that's something we can read about defensively, which again doesn't read well because of the scoreboard, but some of the efforts that they tried to do here. 46 tackles from Starling, 40 tackles from Horsburgh, 41 from Young, 44, 0 missed from Matty Nicholson. That's the positives of this game from the Raiders. That's all you can really say. I don't know what to comment. I've commented about why this is poor, what they're meant to do with their other 70 minutes, even after conceding a few. And, that's sort of where I'm going to have to leave it. As I said, I tipped them, so I have a lot of belief in this Raiders side. I've seen enough from them in the first 2 weeks to know that they will be a very competitive footy side this year. But this game was very, very disappointing from them. I'm sure all Raiders fans feel the same way. Now, I know Ricky Stewart is going to give them an absolute blasting for this one. So it's one of those ones that they'll have to live with. For them, next week, they have the Cowboys in Townsville. I think that's actually going to be a really good contest. I think the Cowboys, they're desperate now. They showed a little bit of fight against the Broncos. They're going up against a Raiders side that, just came off a big loss. They're going to be up for this challenge knowing that they need to get a win sooner rather than later. And the Raiders are going to have to go to Townsville in the heat, predicted to be heat, and try and get a win after this embarrassing performance. So that should prove to be a good game. But that's where we're going to leave it for this podcast. It has gone well over time. I was in the mood to talk some footy, and I've done it a little bit too much than I should have. Let's quickly do tips for next week so you guys can hear them on the podcast if you listen and don't follow the page. If you don't follow the page, the Instagram page, go and do so because that's where we post our tips and bets. Rabbitohs Panthers. I will be taking the Penrith Panthers in that game. Doesn't matter if it's a Rabbitohs home game. It's all in Sydney. Panthers, they're going to need to get a win under their belt, and the Rabbitohs are still under strength. Roosters Titans. That's an interesting one. I might take the Titans in this one just based on their last week and the Roosters last week, but that one I'm not nearly as confident on. It is in Allianz Stadium, Sydney, so it could be a good little test for the Roosters in this one, but I think I'll take the Titans at this stage for that game. Dolphins Broncos. This one's also really, really tough. I think I'm going to take the Broncos based on the fact that they're still getting wins like they did against the Cowboys with people like Reece Walsh having a bad game. I think their forward pack is so strong, and the Dolphins forward pack was a point of contention for us in this podcast, whether or not they can compete against the best. Going against the Broncos might be too much of a test for them. In saying that, they're desperate for a win themselves. It's a bit of a rivalry already, so they could very much get this one done. I hope they do, but I think I'm going to back in the Brisbane Broncos to get that one done. Dragons Storm up next. It's not a bad time for the Dragons to take on the Storm this one, coming off a bye for them in Estrada Jubilee Stadium, and the Storm coming off that Penrith game, but you've still got to tip the Melbourne Storm. It'd be rude not to tip the best side in the NRL. But I think the Dragons, they could cause an upset there. That's one that I'm going to be very tempted in the betting markets by looking at whatever the line is for that one. But I will be taking the Melbourne Storm. Cowboys Raiders. This is the one that we just mentioned. Very hard one to tip. Joseph Tarpany should be back for this one. I might take the Raiders thinking that they're going to have to get up from being embarrassed against the Seagulls. And with Joseph Tarpany back, their captain, their leader. But wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys win this one. As I said, it is in Townsville and they need to get a win soon. So that one's sort of a toss of the coin job, but I think at the moment I'll take the Canberra Raiders. Sharkies and Bulldogs. I'm taking the Sharkies. The Bulldogs didn't show me enough in that week, and the Sharks have showed me more than, any other team at the moment. I know the Bulldogs are 3 for 3. I get that. But the Sharks, as I said, what they've shown and the quality that they have in their side, I'm going to be tipping them at Sharks Stadium. And to close out, there's 2 more games. We have the Seagulls and the Eels. I'm taking the Seagulls. I just don't see a world at the moment where I'm going to tip the Eels to win any game, especially not at Four Pines Park against the Seagulls with Trbojevic back. So Seagulls, big time there. And then Tigers Warriors is a very interesting one. Both these sides in the top 8 at the moment, 4th and 7th. It's in Campbelltown, so Tigers home game. Obviously, I'm a Warriors supporter. I'd love to tip the Warriors. I want them to win regardless. I think at the moment, from what I'm seeing from the Tigers, I'm going to tip the Tigers to win this one. I know going against my side, but the beauty of doing that is if the Tigers win, I'm, less disappointed because at least I get my tip right. If the Warriors win, sure, I got my tip wrong, but my team won. So it's sort of a win-win in a grey area there. So I'll tip the Tigers to win that one. But of course, I will still be hoping the Warriors get that one done. The Knights are on the bye. That rounds out our round 3 review and looking forward for our tips for round 4. Thank you guys for tuning into this one, and I'll see you guys next time.